Hey, I'm Ed Kaminsky, and welcome back to the EdZone, where we're going to give you live, up-to-date, topical information about everything real estate. So thanks for checking in. Today we're going to cover three topics. Number one, the market conditions. Where are we in the market today? Number two, how to be more prepared as a buyer if you do have to buy in this market. And number three, what the heck are pocket listings? What does that really mean? So we're going to go into market conditions first. Where is the market today? Were you shopping last year in the marketplace? Is my first question. Did you deal with any kind of frustrations? I can just tell you I had a lot of buyers that were out there. They thought they were ready to go, could afford a lot of money, and they couldn't find a house. So are we any better this year? And I can just tell you, based on what I'm seeing in the start of this year, it's going to look worse. There is more competition at this time of year than I've ever seen before. There are prices getting pushed up higher than I've ever seen before on some list prices. So it's a little scary what's going on. So one of the things I look at when I look at how do you know where the market condition is what we call inventory, or the amount of available homes for sale at any given point in time in a given place. Let's take Manhattan Beach, for example. Last year, on average, we had about 120 homes to pick from at a given point in time. By the end of the year, in December, it dropped down below 50. It was in the 40s. Right now, we're barely reaching 60. So we're still about 50% of the inventory available to purchase homes right now. Is that going to change? I think so. I think it'll be better. I think right after Super Bowl, which is this weekend, February, March, April, we'll start to see that inventory tick back in, but I think there's going to be pent-up demand for the homes that are coming. So you have to be prepared as a buyer if you see one you like. So what does that look like? How can you really prepare as a buyer? Actually, one other stat before I go there, I want to say about the inventory levels. Where are we as far as months of inventory? I want to touch on that. The months of inventory in a marketplace really tells you the status of the market. In Manhattan Beach, I would say in 2008, there was about 18 months of inventory on the market, which means if nothing came for sale, it would take 18 months for everything to sell out. Today, we're less than one. In Redondo Beach, similar numbers. There was a year of inventory in the market, and today, there's less than 2 months of inventory in the market. So that's giving you a status of where we are. So how do you really prepare for that as a buyer? It kind of reminds me of a story of a client that lost their bedroom. And it's a sad story, and I'll tell you what I mean. A buyer went out shopping for a 4-bedroom home. They got excited. They saw one they liked, asked them if they had been pre-approved, and they handed me their pre-qualification letter. The letter said they're qualified for this $1.5 million house, which had 4 bedrooms. They submitted their offer. It was accepted. They went through the loan process. During that processing, the banker asked for some additional information. This was information that was not given during the pre-qualification. That new information, which happened to be a spouse's student loan that wasn't told to the lender prior to, showed up. This reduced their borrowing ability by $200,000. So what did that mean? They couldn't buy that home. They had to cancel. They got their deposit back, fortunately, because they had a contingency. But they had to go back to the market and buy a 3-bedroom house when they thought they could get a 4-bedroom house. So how do you not let this happen? Critically, you want to know the difference between a pre-approval and a pre-qualification. If you're pre-approved, that means the lenders looked at your credit report, your income, they've verified it, they've processed this through what's called an underwriter, who is really the judge deciding if you're going to get approved or not get approved, and they stamp it approved and hand you your pre-approval letter. If you have this, you're likely golden if it's done correctly. What's a pre-qualification letter? That's basically walking into your banker and saying, hey, I make X amount of money. I have this much in the bank. Would you write a letter for me that says I qualify for a loan? He goes, oh yeah, sure, no problem. And they write a letter. Is that legal? Yes. Does it happen? Yes. Is it going to get you in trouble? Yes. So understand the difference between pre-qualification, pre-approval. It's probably one of the best ways to get prepared. I'm going to remind you, for those that are watching, looking now, if you have a question, feel free to throw it out there. This is live. And the first one I see is, who do you have in the Super Bowl? Well, I'll tell you who I have. It doesn't mean that's who's going to win, but I took the Patriots. I'm from Cleveland. Belichick coached for Cleveland once, so I have to stick with that plan. He's very smart, especially giving him 2 weeks to prepare. And, of course, now you have Tom Brady, and Gronk's been cleared from concussion protocol. He's going to play in the game, but I would be fearful of the Eagles. They're fired up. We'll see what happens on Sunday. So that was not real estate topic. We'll move back. Where are we? One last thing on pre-approval versus pre-qualification. There are good lenders out there. There are great lenders out there. I work with a number of them. I'll plug a few of them. I love Gary May at Wells Fargo. He does a tremendous job. Rick Ellis at Bank of America does an amazing job. And Jasmine at Mortgage Capital Partners has done great things for a lot of my team members. So those are 3 names. If you want to find out more about who they are and if they can help, reach out to us anytime. So I mentioned one other thing, and that's pocket listings. What is a pocket listing? Is it good for sellers? Is it good for buyers? What is it actually? And I'll tell you what a pocket listing is. It is ultimately a home that's for sale, but not on the multiple listing service. It's not on the public sites, most likely. It's one that a real estate agent knows about, or some real estate agents know about, but hasn't put it out there for really public consumption. So if you hear about them, they are potentially a good opportunity for you to go buy a home. I also want to tell you to exercise caution with pocket listings as a buyer, and I'll tell you what I mean. A lot of times these are sellers that say to an agent, hey, if you can get me X, bring a buyer over, I'll sell the house. And I've seen it happen 100 times where buyer comes over and says, wow, I'll pay X, I'll take the house. And the seller says, wow, if they'll pay X, maybe I can get Y. And they say no. So you just be cautious because it's not publicly stated what the actual price is. You could have a seller be a little bit, moving, whatever the right word is, on their price on those pocket listings. But they are a great opportunity. Pay attention to that inventory in a tight market like today. And if you're a seller wondering if a pocket listing is good for you, call me. I'll tell you some of the benefits of what those are. I'm going to go back to some of the questions. For first-time home buyers, what are 3 tips you have for them? Well, first of all, what I just said, be prepared with your pre-qualification. That's number 1. Number 2, have a list of your wants and your needs. And wants are different than needs. Needs are, hey, I need a house and I need to be in this price range. I really want a 4-bedroom. I really want a family room. I really want a 2-car garage. And when you go out there and you start shopping around, you might find that you can't get all of it. So I think it's always a good idea to list your wants, but at the same token, maybe have a list of, okay, I can live without. How do you learn about pocket listings? That's a great question coming from Jessica. If you're working with an agent that has the inside scoop in the marketplace, there's a good chance they know about a lot of pocket listings. So it really probably comes down to the agent you're working with and how connected they are into the real estate community, how many clients they have that might be talking to them about selling. I can tell you right now I have 3 pocket listings in Manhattan Beach, all in the tree section, and I have one in North Redondo. A beautiful home in North Redondo that's 2,500 square feet for $1,150,000. And the 3 in the trees, I got one at 2695, 2825, and the third, I even forgot. I'll look it up later. But if you're looking, again, talk to your agent, ask them if they know about any pocket listings. Another question, what should my other price be based on? What should my offer price be based on? It's a great question, and you have to ask lots of questions before making an offer. Number one, you may have to be dealing with competition, but number two, you've got to be protecting yourself when it comes to value. And do you really understand the true value of the home? So you want to be asking, what are the 3 most relevant sales that are similar to the home I'm making an offer on that have happened in the last 90 days? If you can figure out what that is, that's going to give you a base of understanding of what your offer price should be based on value. But at the same token, if you're competing against 3 other buyers, you may have to throw that out the door to have a chance at getting a house. And I'll give you a story. There's a buyer, or a listing we had the other day for $1,795,000. The last 3 comps were $1,650,000. It appeared to be overpriced. The house sold for over $1,900,000. So it really had no relationship to the actual sales comps in the area. It had to do with market demand. I can tell you the person that bought it is ecstatic. They love the house. They know they paid more than anything else in the neighborhood to date. But if prices are moving up, they'll be okay. If they're not selling in the next 10 or 15 years, they're going to be just fine. So you have to look at the competition and then look at the comps. Great question. One more question from Candace. What are pocket listings for those who are new to real estate? Well, we just covered that topic pretty much in detail, so if you know how to roll this back, it's covered there. Second, is there a scroll here? Oh, there is. Kyle. I already told you you're taking the Super Bowl. Let's see, anything else? 3 tips. I think we covered it. Oh, here we go. From Diggs. What is the approximate percentage of off-market pocket listings versus all of the other listings in Manhattan Beach per month? You know, there was a significant amount of off-market sales last year, especially in the high end. Percentage-wise, if I was going to pick a percentage based on my recollection, was about 18% of the listings that sold last year were off-market sales, meaning pocket listings. And I think we're going to start to wrap up. So I scroll through here. If I missed your question, because I didn't see it on the screen, I apologize. Feel free to reach back out anytime. You can reach us at the office. You can call us, text us, email us, whatever is good. Again, this has been another episode of the EdZone. We're going to bring you up-to-date information on real estate. We're going to bring it live so you can ask any questions that you might have. We appreciate you watching. We'll be checking out now. Thank you, and good luck on whoever you take in the Super Bowl this weekend.